Nobody wants to have cheaters at live poker tables nor online. I want to focus a little bit more on live. Online, it's a different topic, but the past days, it was more around live poker. If you haven't seen the video that I uploaded a couple of days ago, check it out here and you see what I'm talking about. And I want to continue addressing a couple of points I've seen people posting on social media and questions I've received. And yeah, let's just get right into it. So first, what is RTA? What is the solver? RTA is real-time assistance, meaning you get accurate, very, very accurate results, near perfection for the very hand you're playing. This is very common for online. I'm pretty sure there's some cheaters that are using such tools to get the assistance in real time to basically not make any mistakes. A solver is a bit different. So if I use RTA in this video, then that means you get feedback right away. And to me personally, and you might disagree with this, and that's totally cool. For me, it's also an RTA if you use it at a poker table and you prepare spots that might be coming up, because it's still happening all in real time while you are playing poker and you gain an unfair advantage. If you study at home, it's a little bit different, right? You can even use a real-time assistance at home for your studying. That's totally fine. Now, a solver, in my opinion, is something like PyroSolver. So I want to look up a spot, but I have to put in the spot. I have to assign a preflop range. I have to put in the board, and then it needs to solve. And that can take a minute, that can even take a few hours, or it can even take days if it's a very big game tree with ICM consideration, post-flop consideration to get very accurate preflop ranges that also considers the equity realization. I don't want to get too deep into that. It's a topic for a different video. But just so you know, when I talk about RTA, it's basically a program that has pre-solved situations for you to access, and you didn't just choose the very spot where you want to have a solution for. So that happens on the fly, and that's why I'm saying these tools should have a delay that would prevent a lot of the cheating that is happening. And for solver, typically you don't have a library, you have to put in the spot, you need to feed it with input, and then it solves, right? So you can't really cheat with that because it takes too long. The hand would be over. I mean, you can't sit there live poker. Hey guys, can you wait 5 minutes until my solver is ready? And usually also the results wouldn't be really accurate. And typically you would have a very strong laptop with you to enter everything. So that's not very much possible. So RTA, real-time assistance, solver takes some time. So we got this sorted. Now, I also want to first address the whole GTO versus exploitative. Now, because you probably have heard me saying, well, you shouldn't be following GTO or GTO is bullshit. The way I'm addressing is GTO is important to a certain degree to understand the basics of the game, the theory. However, and I will soon upload a video about this whole topic and show you what you really need to succeed in poker. Now, that's a different topic. However, in GTO, what most people think is we humans, we play close to GTO. And that's why I think also where a lot of the confusion comes from, that people think, well, the edges you can gain are very small, they're very minor. Well, I heavily disagree with that. I will come back to that later and also share an example with you where it's an ICM preflop situation. Now, with GTO, what most people don't understand is that we're really, really far away from playing perfect GTO. Multi-way, even the best in the world, keep blundering these spots, which is normal because A, it takes a long time to solve them. It's very complicated. We will get a lot better in these spots. It will happen inevitably. But as of now, we're still far away. And I think for the next couple of years, we're still going to be really far away from playing optimal GTO. If optimal GTO is 100%, I would say right now we're around 10, 15%. Maybe if you say 30%, but listen, like even ICM post-flop on final tables, we probably are not reaching even 5%. You're supposed to use ridiculous sizings in so many different spots with all the different stack sizes and ICM influence that a human can barely grasp the very concepts of GTO in those very ICM heavy environments. And then also all the different mixed stack sizes. So we need to rely on some simplicity as well, so we can translate certain topics in other spots, right? To make sure we play a game that we can also execute, because you cannot copy paste what a solver is telling you. We humans don't have the brain capacities to execute it to even just close to GTO perfection. And that's why poker is still so profitable across all stakes. Of course, it gets tougher the higher you get, but especially in low stakes and mid stakes, what most of the people here are playing, and if you play some soft live tournaments, it's ridiculously soft. And the average player is still so far away from GTO that gives a lot of room to exploit. And this is a lot easier and faster because you're going to be driving your win rate a lot more by doing certain exploits. If I know in certain spots my opponents are not folding the hands they're supposed to fold, it's a waste of time to figure out what are the right blockers to execute a certain bluff. I just don't bluff, I wait for good hands. And this also is very much applicable to so many different spots. So for me, it makes no sense to spend all the time studying GTO solutions. I've learned the theory, I understand what I am supposed to do, so some GTO is important, but then I focus my studying on identifying those leaks, those weaknesses in my opponent's games, which spots are underbluffed, so I don't need to spend time on figuring out what is my bluff catcher frequency or my call down frequency. And this might be different to cash games. I'm addressing tournaments, and I would even say that live poker tournaments are even a lot softer than online tournaments. I am in a lot of spots, if I play 10K, 5K, where I play against the best in the world and I need to rely on GTO a lot more. If I would be playing low stakes, mid stakes, I wouldn't be streaming and people wouldn't know me, I would play ridiculously exploitative. Yes, you can focus on heavy GTO studying. I'm not saying GTO is going to lose your money. It's certainly going to be making money. The problem though is, and I would also say, and I think it's pretty obvious, a GTO bot that plays 100% perfect GTO would crush the competition. I mean, it's pretty insane to say that this is not the case because he understands spots and makes money in spots that we have no fucking clue of. Even though there's going to be certain spots where we as a human going to be making more money because we're not going to making those GTO bluffs or GTO call downs. However, the perfect GTO bot that can also consider ICM would outperform every single human being. However, you as a human, you will never get there. That's the whole point. And I think that's why poker will remain so profitable even for the next couple of years, even 10, 15 years. Poker is just so complex and we don't have all information at hand. I'm not sure. I mean, I cannot look in the future, but I cannot imagine right now that this is going to be solved in the next 5 or 10 years. Maybe when we have some supercomputers, and also it has a huge database that can also draw conclusions based on the hands and the billions of situations we have fed the AI. Maybe then, I don't know. But as of now, I don't think that's the case. Even the best recs in the world have crazy leaks. I have crazy leaks. It's normal because you cannot study everything. You will have to make a sacrifice and say, all right, I'm going to be focusing on this for the next couple of weeks. Of course, the more you play, the more experience you have, then it's likely that you're going to be one of the winners if you do it right. However, it is not about playing perfect. In poker, it's sufficient to just simply being better than everyone else, making fewer mistakes. If you're at playing 12% of what is considered optimal, as long as all the others only play 9, 8, 7%, making more mistakes than you do, you're going to be winning. And that's the whole point of playing poker. Most people struggle with their mindset. They're impatient, they tilt, they punt it off. That's where they're destroying their win rate. The best recs in the world, a guy like Mateos or Charles Darwin, I play with them I mean, not every day, but it used to be a time. And when I play against them on Sundays, they're fucking solid. Like, they're not doing some fancy, crazy strategies, but their mindset is incredibly strong. They can just keep folding. They're not going to be punting it off. They're not going to be giving you any gifts. And these are the most difficult opponents to play against. Here and there, their sizings might be a little bit off, but even if you study with solvers properly, and you look into a quarter sizing versus 1/3 sizing, 2/3 sizing, very often the EV differences are very, very marginal. It's not worth spending that much time on identifying. Go for 1/3, 2/3. If you play against the recreational, being able to adapt and going for big sizings, don't worry about being balanced and so on and so forth. So I needed to elaborate a little bit more to make you understand that now if we're so far away from GTO, but now we have access to tools that we can use at a live poker table, that can be quite problematic if we now have people that can play to close GTO. And listen, of course for post, because you cannot predict the boards, but you can predict the preflop action. And that's a big problem because very often in tournament poker, apart from the early game, but the more the tournament advances, you're more often going to be playing 10, 15, 20, 30 big blinds. And a lot of the money comes from playing preflop good and making exploits preflop, understanding who you can pressure, you can 3-bet a lot, and just collecting those non-showdown winnings and still have a massive win rate. Very often then post flops, given this shorter stack to pot ratio, yes, you still can have an edge, but not as much as pre-flop, where you can leverage your position advantage, you can leverage the pressure you can make on other stacks, but also understanding who to stay away from, who's very aggressive, who to reshove really wide against, who to min raise into his blinds. A lot of the time, tournament poker is about in-game table selection and playing a lot of pots against the opponents that you can make a lot of money against. Also, I'm going to be uploading a video soon. I'm working on that to show you that what GTO does not consider future game, in-game table selection, if it's chip EV, not ICM, your edge, everything like that. Because on the poker table, you actually want, or in a tournament, you want to give up a little bit of EV if you have the chance to win more EV in the future. And it makes no sense to make these GTO hero calls and call downs, whatever, against other strong opponents. You actually, I mean, not too much, but to a certain degree, you want to avoid that because you're just going to have so many profitable spots in the future. The better you are, the higher your ROI, the more you want to avoid these marginal spots. You want to play pots against them. But this requires also being able to keep your ego in check, which a lot of people struggle with, and I understand it's hard. But this is something GTO does not consider. It's still very flawed, and that's why I'm saying over and over again, I'm not against studying GTO, but most people do it in a wrong way. There's a lot to learn, but if you don't have someone that can explain you, or if you can explain to yourself why we want to do certain things and why we don't want to do certain things, it can hurt your game more, and your exploitative game that you might have played up until this point, until you started in GTO, it can hurt your win rate. Now, that's the problem, because you start doing things to be balanced, to be merged, and all these fancy things in situations where all that matters is you just rip it in, you're being greedy as fuck, and it pushes your win rate, because most of the money comes from proper value betting, proper preflop ranges, and also once you have it, to understand, to get the money and to get the maximum value from your poker hands. And then if you start applying certain GTO concepts in the wrong spots where it's still, you're gonna be making profit, don't get me wrong, but GTO often or strives for neutralizing your opponent's EV and not maximizing your EV, for example, through exploiting your opponents. And this is, most people, that is a very basic concept. Now, and then you start merging your ranges and checking to be balanced, to be protected, and block bets with your strong hands as well against opponents that literally have very few bluffs, that especially live will never bluff raise you on the river, and you start doing that insane stuff. That's why I'm using Pyrosolver, because I can note log. I can say, well, I'm playing against the average live rec or live recreational, and I will remove certain raises from the river, and suddenly we never want to bet small. We just want to be betting big. And this note locking really helps you to play a game that is very suitable against certain player types and will generate you the most money. Now let's move on. I've seen some people saying, well, what is the difference between during a hand and after a hand? I will now speak about using RTA. Of course, during a hand, I think we all agree, if you have a different opinion, that doesn't require any explanation. I mean, even after during a hand, honestly. I give it a bit of the benefit of the doubt, though, to some people that might not really understand the power of these RTAs and what they are capable of. But during a hand, of course, it's obvious cheating. And I think even using it at a poker table, it's also obvious cheating. After or beforehand, I don't really care. Even if you do it after a hand, you are also learning something right away, what to do in this exact spot. I will also address it at the poker table versus studying at home. There's a major difference when it comes to that. But at the poker table, the problem is that you can solve all of these spots pre-flop. How to play your 20 big blind button versus the blinds versus under the gun open race. And you just need to pull up one sim that can focus and cover all of these spots. And yes, if you accumulate that, if you say maybe you're slightly losing and you suddenly, in seconds, you just need to copy paste that. You just look on your phone. If we allow this before or after bullshit, right? Oh, before the hand starts, let me look, I'm on the button, okay, against under the gun, I call this. You don't need to be a scientist to do that. Now, you might say, well, what's the difference using it at home? Well, at home, you don't know which spots you're going to be in. So you have to make sure you really understand that. It's like cheating at an exam. If I have the solutions with me, I just write down the answers. But if I'm at home and I have to study at home, I don't know what questions are going to be asked. It's quite far-fetched, but you get the point. If I study at home poker, even with RTA, I have to look in potentially billions of different spots. Of course, that's not possible. So in order to execute a winning strategy, I need to understand it, and I need to be able to translate what I know, what I've learned, onto other spots to play them well as well. Because it's impossible to study everything in poker just because of its complexity. And I don't really understand why it's so difficult for people to understand that there's a major difference when I'm sitting at home and now at the poker table. If I know I can use RTA, I would never study again. Why would you study for an exam if you know which questions, right? If I can look in the future and I know, okay, I'm going to be in these spots this very day, well, I just prepare for these spots. That's cheating. That's an unfair advantage. I had so many tournaments I prepared, final tables I prepared, and none of these spots occurred. But I still learned. Maybe later on they might have happened and I knew what to do, or I used the knowledge for other spots. It was as surely not as accurate as if I, in that situation right now, and I know, okay, the guy to my right, 35 big blinds, I have 25 big blinds. That's my reshoving range. That's my 3-betting. And I think, especially for a very good player, seeing all that and also being able to use the reads you have, it is so powerful to make all these adjustments right away. Like, you as a recreational, you have no chance, and you're going to be losing your money so much faster. Also, for, let's say, someone who's not well studied, who just plays for fun, he still, maybe here and there, he watches some strategy videos, and he's not like the big fish. If he suddenly gets access, he ascends from being maybe a break-even player to, at least in these spots, being a pre-flop crusher. Like, you just need to copy-paste. You're not going to make these blunders anymore. You're not going to make these crazy minus EV pre-flop calls, also reshoves, all-ins, or whatever. Or if someone is too passive, well, good luck now suddenly playing against some very well aggressive playing opponents, right? And that's just not fair. It took me, and I think many other recs, 5-10 years of hard studying and sacrificing other things in life to get there. I'm not complaining, but that's just the truth. And I don't even know why we have this discussion that this is just clear cheating. And we see it in so many other industries. I'm also in esports. When our boys are going to the stage, they have to drop off their phones, no electronics, nothing. Even though it seems to be pretty nitpicking, but if they're going on stage and they have a big game, there's nothing they can use, especially live. It's so much easier to enforce. Online, it's a lot harder. Online, it's probably you have more cheating, obviously, than in a live environment. That's why also all the important games and big games, the major events, are all happening live, of course, but they're also very strict in enforcing these rules. So I will speak later on solutions, but I think it's pretty straightforward. I also don't understand why people say, oh, it's impossible. It's similar to battling drugs and stuff. Like it's a lost battle. No, it's not. It's very much not very difficult, especially with people that care and that would report such things. It's a lot harder. And I already explained that in the previous video. Do you want at a live poker table that maybe if it's not during a hand, again, after or before a hand doesn't really matter, because if I look up a hand right after what I'm supposed to do, I can apply this in the very next hands and have the perfect solutions at hand. Now, if everyone would be doing it, then it's just a matter of who has the fastest RTA, who has access to the biggest library, and who can click faster, and they just copy paste that. And that's not the point of playing poker. I've also seen some people, brings me to the next topic. Yeah, what's the difference between watching a poker video? Again, it's completely random. What are the chances? It might be once in a blue moon. But of course, watching a poker video or even doing some quizzing or even using a solver, because you can't really use it anyway. Maybe using a solver at the poker table is impossible, because you would have to bring your setup, a laptop, whatever, and start running solves, and people would see that and report you. That's impossible. But if you want to watch a poker video, if you want to watch a poker stream, they're going to have completely different spots. You are not able to apply that right away. And that's the huge difference. It's not like you have 25 possible scenarios and maybe the streamer plays some of them and it's very likely you're going to have the same. No, we talk about billions. different payout structure, different opponents, different stack sizes, different positions. Everything is different. And also, you have to, it doesn't necessarily mean he's playing perfect either, right? So if a streamer plays, he still might make mistakes. You're not seeing a bot. Maybe you watch a poker video, a coaching video from Raise Your Edge. I will talk about completely different spots. I don't mind banning this entirely as well to really make sure there are no backdoors and sneaky ways to maybe excuse yourself, maybe have like, I don't know, like split your screen coaching video and below that, like, I don't know, man. People are getting creative when it comes to cheating. I don't mind. I'm all for this. But I still believe that at least, and maybe I can tease this already, what I would suggest as solution, no RTA usage or any kind of help ranges that gives you immediate feedback what to do. Pulling up a pre-flop chart for the spots you're in. Pulling up an RTA, forbidden. It doesn't matter, before or after. Because people are going to find backdoors. Even if you allow it after or beforehand, you can still find ways, to maybe pull up something for this spot and then you say, oh, I did it after the hand. It's all good. It's so much harder to enforce rules. Why would you make it easier for cheaters if it literally doesn't bring any value to the economy of poker, to the entertainment of playing poker, to everyone involved at the poker table? And it makes it so much harder because, of course, here and there people look to the left and right and maybe they take a glimpse on your phone, and it's so much harder. Why would we not utilize it? It makes no sense to me. Nothing is perfect. Listen, it's not going to prevent cheating 100% of the time, but it will reduce it. It will make it harder, and it's easier to enforce because then there is no excuse possible for people saying, yeah, but I didn't use it during the hand. I was not, like, if you have your hands in the lap, it's very hard. It's very, very hard. So then at least, well, they cannot use that excuse to sneak their way around it and also massively exploit that. Because if we now allow this and this makes the round, and listen, I was also thinking about, should I make this video or should it not? I do believe if this would have made the rounds anyway, and it's better now to educate people and to keep an eye on it and be mindful about this and not hold back. If you see such shit at the poker table, report them immediately. Not only to the staff at the casino, but also online. If you know their screen name, whatever, report it immediately because they're very likely also cheating on. If someone's cheating live, they're certainly also more likely to cheat online. So then also people saying, yeah, what about using RTA at home? Again, as long as you're not using it for online poker, but I urge you to only use programs that have a delay. If you can access a library of solves, otherwise you're just supporting it and it keeps growing, it keeps getting worse, and others will catching up. Solvers should have, or RTA should have delays, and you should not use an RTA that does not have a delay, period. If there's a market, well, you shouldn't blame them. You should blame the people that sign up for it, pay money for an RTA that can be used for cheating. It's that easy. But it is what it is. Also, people saying, yeah, using RTA in breaks, if they walk away, again, or even some people saying, yeah, what if they use it in the hotel room, to a live poker table? You got to remain realistic, man. Like, if someone studies in a hotel room, like, you want to forbid that? I mean, and that's not wrong. Again, this is studying. This is not cheating. This is studying, and that's totally cool. Preparing for a final table, that's totally cool. Like, big teams prepare for quarterfinals, semifinals. They prepare for that very match. That's totally fine. I will always adjust, like, if that's an option, and if this is forbidden anyway, all right, cool, I won't do it. But like, it makes no sense. And also, how are you going to enforce it? Are you going to knock on the door? Hey, sorry, sir, are you just studying for a final table? Like, come on. Like, why would people bring up these scenarios that is not enforceable? We should find a good mix of something that makes sense, and that's also something we can enforce. And not allowing cell phones during a hand is very easy enforceable. The moment someone touches his phone, boom, your cards are dead. I mean, it shouldn't be too difficult to just focus at your poker hand, and after the hand is done, you can go back on your phone. Or no charts, no RTA usage at all if you're at the poker table. And if someone wants to walk away to solve a spot, go to the toilet, again, it's never going to be 100% perfect. Maybe there is a solution. I'm all open for it, but just because something is not possible, it doesn't mean we shouldn't be trying at all. I always feel like people think binary. If we cannot ban it 100%, we should not attempt to at least reduce it. Makes no sense to me. Make it as hard as possible. I also think that during a final table, we should perhaps, unless you have a coach or something, I think that is fine, or not even having the players talking to their fans at all. Like maybe adding I don't know, maybe there are solutions as well. I'm all down for it. But I would also not allow or somehow limit or reduce phone usage on final tables as well. Of course, that's where the money is getting bigger and bigger, especially when it's televised. You know, it's easier to enforce certain things and to control, to monitor certain things. And I think that's totally fine. I mean, we have this issue online, people being ghosted. It's very likely not happening live, but I think it's also not necessarily good for players to constantly run to their fans and they run sims and shit. Like, I'm not so sure about this. I don't think it's great either, especially when you're a recreational player. But yeah, I'm definitely open there for discussion. I have a very firm opinion on everything else I said about, and I think it would be a right step. And I think casinos should catch up, being aware of it, that this is becoming a thing. And then we move on from there. We monitor, we see, like, I definitely don't want to ban phones from the poker table because it's great for the game. Like people vlogging, making stories, I think that's cool. And this is important because it helps growing the game. And we shouldn't ban phones from the poker table. But to a certain degree, we should ban them when you play a hand. If you're all in, of course, taking a story and shit like this is fine. Again, you see that it's still, there's some, it's hard to set an exact rule. If you want to vlog or something, bring a cam, record the footage. There's still ways to create content around it. And I think it's really important to create content around it, to help grow the game, to post exciting content, people watching it. The algorithm keeps pushing out the poker content, gets more eyeballs, people seeing it, getting excited, getting into poker. That's how also one part of how we can grow the game. And I also want to show you just something really quick, how easy it is. I mean, this is a solver, right? This is a solver or a calculator, right? It's calculating something, it's solving something. I need to give it an input, then it runs. So very likely I won't be able to get the exact same result. I would still not allow this at the poker table because you could technically still run spots that might come up in the next couple of orbits. And you can prepare all these kind of different spots and you have a lot of time. It's easy. It's very, very easy to do that kind of stuff, especially with RTA. Here, I think I don't really see this being realistic, having a laptop and then you run all these HRC sims. But yeah, shout out to HRC, our partner. Fantastic tool to study ICM, the best tool on the market. I have been using this tool basically since the beginning of my career. And I know it was first Sitting Go Wizard. And then once HRC was released, that's the ultimate tool for poker players. And by the way, and we even have 20% off right now during Scoop. So check out the link in the description and benefit a massive discount. So here we have a common situation on a final table. I'm taking a final table situation just for the sake of complicity. Can be money bubble spots, can be in the middle of the tournament where ICM starts applying, final two tables or whatever, where you're not so much in the spotlight yet and you just can pull out sims, or just chippy V preflop ranges if it's earlier in the beginning of the tournament, when especially you're clueless and you can get close to perfection in just a few seconds. I just want to show you, especially under ICM impact, again, can be also totally applied. I can just put all these other stacks and the proper payout structure, 300 left, 400 left, money bubble, doesn't matter. Now, if we look at the final table here, and we are in the small blind, and let's assume maybe we're not so well studied and we don't really understand how to apply ICM pressure. Maybe we're freestyling a little bit, right? And we would be playing, of course, a lot of hands because we cover the big blinds. However, we might think, not shoving any two because if we get called, we're one of the short stacks. We might be very likely out very soon. We want to wait out the other stacks. You have all sorts of different player types in these situations when is suddenly money at risk, where they get too tight or too aggressive. And especially under ICM, the mistakes can be massively expensive, especially when it comes to calling off all-ins and risking your tournament life. It's freaking insane. So this is the correct solution here, right? This is the Nash equilibrium, meaning we're supposed to call in any 2 cards and the big blind is supposed to call 17.8%. Now, this is where someone who might not be aware of it, right? 7-4 off, 8-4 off, 9-3 off. All of these hands are profitable any 2 all-ins. And they're actually quite decently profitable if we consider the V of aces, whereas like with aces we make 1.4. So what do these numbers actually mean? Let's like take a 10-4 off here or a Jack-3 off. Or let's just take even something really crappy, a 7-3 off. So you see we make 70 cents. That means times 1,000, we make $700. And if someone would have folded this, or maybe once in a while played it, or here and there be mixed in some limbs or whatever, you would have made it a few $100, or not even any money at all and just folding it, it's an increase from $0 to $700. I mean, considering, you have an infinite increase if you start at 0, but if his strategy is minus a few dollars or plus few dollars, that's like 700xing your profits in this very spot. And just looking it up and seeing, all right, I'm supposed to play any 2 cards. And you might wonder, well, how does it look like accessing such spots? Well, we, for example, impaired, which you should never use at a live poker table. You can just click on final table, pull up some sims or money bubble, even select for the field size you're playing, and there's going to be more and more spots added, and you can have a look how you're supposed to approach certain scenarios. And we're also going to be adding WSUP parrot structures as well and field sizes, so people can study it. Of course, the studying, the facilitation of studying is becoming easier and better, and that's also our goal, so people don't need to run this shit on their own because it's a massive pain. And you can just pull up a money bubble situation here, 1,000 players, maybe there's like 200 left, the money bubble, all right, stacks are somewhat similar what I'm as my situation, and you can just have screens to all of these situations while I'm playing. Like I put it on my lap, and from being utterly clueless, I can play all of these spots absolutely perfect. I can also look into what my opponent is supposed to do. If I'm sitting here on the button and this is my reshoving range against the cutoff in ICM, well, I still want to have a look, okay, is this realistic, this guy, the way he has been playing? So not only are you increasing your, from being utterly clueless and maybe just making a few bucks or losing a little bit to GTO perfection, in literally seconds, I can also make exploits and either reduce my reshoves, or if I think this guy is just raising way too much, I should be 3-betting more. Let's have a look. What is this guy? How is he supposed to respond against 4-bets if I 3-bet small with my 17 big blinds? Let's have a look. All right, facing a 3-bet versus button, ICM. What? He's supposed to be that aggressive? No fucking way. And he covers everyone he behind. So he's not going to be 4-bet shoving 8-6 suited, but that's the GTO solution. Now I can drive my profits even more. And again, you don't need to be a wizard to execute that and to understand, all right, he's probably even opening more based on this player type. He's never 4-bet shoving that much. So I'm just going to 3-bet the shit out of him. And I'm 3-betting all of my off-suited aces. I'm 3-betting all of my suited aces and suited kings. And this is what I mean with the tools have become so sophisticated. And this is just one example. And the libraries are growing, right? That we also keep adding more and more spots for all sorts of different stages. At some point, it will reach a point where you only enter, all right, the filter, I'm in this position versus this position. Please pull up the closest sim that is the most realistic to the scenario I'm playing in, and I have all the ranges, and I can extrapolate and make all the exploits to increase my profits even more. At this, I don't even need to study at home anymore. If we allow people to run these or access these simulations at a live poker table, nobody needs to study at home anymore. I can just like put in all the volume, just travel as much, play as much as I can. Well, because I can solve it on the fly, at least for pre-flop, right? But pre-flop and flop are actually the most important points of the game tree, because that's where you can fuck it up the most. Very often the mistakes that happened on turn and rivers because you misplayed it on a previous street. You can see how easy it is to get so much information about a spot and just increase your win rate. It's crazy. And if we look at this hard HRC sim, again, could be also used for money bubble. It's just to make my point. A lot of players wouldn't be shoving any two, like the regular live player. Of course, a lot of you guys listen. For you, it's obvious, right? It's like, Ben, but it's obvious. But it still can be used. Like imagine you as a decent player, maybe you're winning on mid stakes, high stakes, low stakes, right? You're well studied, you understand GTO. But also for you, imagine having access to it. The amount of exploits you can make to always see what is my opponent's respawn and on the fly estimate or calculate, all right, is this realistic? Well, he's probably tired, he's loser. So you always know exactly what you need to do. And this doesn't seem fair to me. Players that are not so well studied improve massively, and then players who are already a little more advanced can utilize it even more. Of course, there are some players who might not be able to read those output, doesn't matter. But again, it just gives too much room for abusing and cheating, which is simply, I don't want this. And I don't think you want this either, no online or live. And a lot of players wouldn't find these all-ins. They wouldn't find these. And if you're now on the money bubble or another situation, final two table, you hit the next pay jump, you pull up some sims, and you just, all right, it shows it's a push, I'm going to be pushing it, and you start collecting all these profits and you just increase your win rate in those spots. And yeah, I don't think it's a good thing. And maybe if this fun player that just wants to play for the win suddenly sees, wait, calling off, king 8 off, I'm losing $1,700, and maybe it's the RTAs are also implementing the numbers and they see it, wow, this cost me $1,700 here. All right, let's skip it. And sitting there, money bubble, whatever, like looking up these spots, where are we getting? Like, I want to play against humans. I want to be playing against people that play with their knowledge and not someone who's being ghosted or is just reading off a chart. That's not game integrity. If you can now assume, well, this guy, like he's just sitting there, he wants to make pay jumps, you can drive your win rate even crazier. Like it's insane. And you probably, just by knowing, all right, ace 4, ace 5, he's not calling, like you make even crazier profits with shoving all this crap. Now 7-3 off, just by assuming he's calling tighter because he's money scared, he wants to ladder up. That's pretty realistic, a 10 big blind final table calling range when there's other short stakes present. I've seen when we do, when I ask people, what were you calling this spot? I wouldn't be surprised if some people say, yeah, with a 5 big blind short stake present, it's 10 plus ace queen. That's very realistic. Now, then with 7-4 off, we make $1,500 with jamming. And this is super easy for people to catch up who had no clue how to approach the spot and suddenly see these ranges and start making a lot more profits. And yes, within a few minutes, maybe even seconds, you 5x, 10x, 50x. And I can imagine people are attacking me for saying on Twitter because I said you can 100x your profits. I think these spots exist. Maybe other spots it's 5x, maybe spots 10x, but it doesn't matter. That's not the point. You gain an unfair advantage. Do we really want to nitpick on the numbers? If you disagree, I think you just don't understand how to utilize these programs, or if you never really looked them up or study with them. And it's a bit questionable that people then on Twitter go after me when it's obvious, dude, you probably never have run any of these spots to understand how much fucking money you can make in some of these crazy ICM spots or preflop spots in general. And yeah, you might not be able to run the full tree if you use it before or after a hand because you cannot predict the turn and the river. But again, with aggregated flop reports, you can at least get a decent idea how to approach different board textures. And then instead of being too passive or too aggressive, to slow it down, reduce your losings, increase your winnings on the flop. It's just, if you start now, but Ben, 100x, okay, maybe 100x is unrealistic. But 5xing your results because you use a tool, is this so off? Does it seem unrealistic to you? It's definitely not very, very tiny. I've seen some people also saying, yeah, it's just very marginal. No, then you don't understand what it means if you play perfect GTO. And I would play perfect GTO on this spot. And I also don't know all the any2 spots by heart. Like, for sure, I would identify many, but I would still miss quite many. And in some spots, I would jam any2 where you maybe just want to be jamming 60%. Right? And I'm still doing a lot of blunders. if I would have access to these tools and many other solid poker players, they would barely make any mistakes, and you would lose your money faster against them because they're not making any mistakes, and they would exploit you faster and you lose your money faster. So yeah, a bit of a longer video, but very much needed to explain some of the things. I may make another video. There are a lot of important topics to address. I was not aware that this whole like let's look up sims at the live poker table is going on. I'm not a live poker table, but I have a platform. I think this is wrong. This is so wrong. I don't fucking care if it's before or afterhand. Do it at home, study, prepare. You can do whatever you want. But at a poker table, we will sit there and just use what we have learned about the game. That's enough for today. A pretty long video. If any other questions or concerns, feel free to drop it in the comments. And yeah, I don't want to see this shit going on live. Of course, not online. But this is a different topic, guys. I really hope this is where the poker side's a little more responsible. Live, we're involved as well. So keep an eye on that. Report it immediately. And I really hope the casinos are implementing strong rules that are also enforceable. And they will enforce it and then impose strong penalties when something like this happens. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, yeah, feel free to drop a comment, and don't forget to spread this, send this to people to like. It's an important topic, and so poker stays alive for a lot longer. See you guys.